Hi, everybody. My name is Stevie B. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and a member of the Golden Text Group of Hollywood, Florida. God bless you guys. Good to be with you guys tonight. Great job, Cynthia. Thank you, No Perfect People Group, for inviting me. And it's going to be a great night. If you haven't drank today, which I have not had a drink today, and most of us have not had a drink today, most of the program is not about not drinking. Because most of us, we don't even think about not drinking. Now, we do have some new people here today, and so we're going to definitely talk about the way that it was and how it was and what it was like, because that's always fun, telling stories like that, you know. Rolled up in a carpet, arrested, driving with one eye. I only have one eye, so it's like driving always with one eye. But so that's fun telling those type of stories, and we'll go into some of those. But then really the meat of this program for me, for us is how it's like now. You know, what's the difference in the way we used to live? That's going to be a little bit of it. And how we're living now. And I just want to tell you the end of the story, just in case you have to leave early. The end of the story is there's one that has all power. That one is God. And we certainly hope you find him now. And for some reason, I didn't hear that. What's up, Robert? Come on in, baby. For some reason, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that for years and years and years. I thought the program was all about me. I thought it was get me better and get me stronger, get me better muscles and get me a beautiful wife and get me a nice car. Somehow I missed the entire thing that it was not about me. Because in treatment, they tell you it's about you. And then we come in the rooms and they tell you you're the most important person to me. I like that part. I'm like, I feel like the most important person to me. But like I carried that for years. I'm like, I'm the most important person to me. And they're like, no, that stops at 30 days, son. I didn't get that. I didn't get that the 12 steps was a design for living for people with mental illness. And I want to tell you, I came here for my drinking and I stayed here for my thinking. And today I'm here for my thinking. Because I wasn't even thinking about drinking, and I would tell you I need a meeting. And what I mean by that is, left to my own devices, I'm in trouble. I'm a criminal behavior away anytime without God. And the whole thing for me is my story is a but God story. And I know some of your stories is a but God story. Like you were going straight to prison, right? There's no doubt about it, but God. You're never going to marry that beautiful wife, but God. I would never have this beautiful wife, but God. We wouldn't be in this church, but God. Most of us wouldn't have jobs, but God. Our entire life is a but God story. But I didn't know that. You know, I'm like kind of like a know-it-all guy from New York, half Jewish, half Italian. So I figured I was like, knew everything. Kind of like factored into the knowing it all. And because I'm from New York, I don't know if that's the way it is in Washington. Everyone in New York feels like the entire planet circles around New York, like we're the center of the universe. I don't know if that's a Washington thing, but it's certainly a New York thing. And I didn't get the work for things concept. I kind of got the lie for things concept. I was an amazing liar. I was like one of the best liars I ever met. Any other liars in here? Any other dishonest people in here? I know you. Come on now. If you're an alcoholic, not you, sir. No, of course not. But I was a tremendous liar, and I'm an incredible liar with low self-esteem. That means I will lie at anything just to make myself feel better about myself, because I don't feel worthy. I didn't feel worthy, so if I lied, I could become. Before drinking, I had lying. I came from a big school, 2,500 kids in my high school, and in my class was 500. And there was a new coach that came to school, and you know everybody in your school. I'm not saying I knew all 2,500, but I knew a lot of the kids. We had all grown up together. And a new coach came to school, and this is an example of my lie. And he looks at the roster, and he says, Boyarski. And I say, yes, coach. He says, does your brother play for the Pittsburgh Panthers? I just need to back up for a second. I didn't have a brother, number one. Number two, I had a little chubby sister, which in my neighborhood, you got no juice if you had a chubby sister. All the guys that had any juice had big brothers. And I didn't have a big brother, but I always wanted a big brother. And when he asked me that in front of 500 kids, I knew my life was about to change. I said, yes, he does, coach. Yes, he does. And all the kids who knew I had a stepbrother as a plumber in Massachusetts looked over at me and they're like, your brother plays for the Pits? I go, yes, he does. And you know, at that moment, I was a somebody. And I love that feeling. To this day, I have to be careful that the ego, to this day, when I came up here, when I was just coming up here, the ego said to me, you better do a good job. These people came from, one guy told me he came from far distance. You better do a good job. And then God told me, just get out of the way. They don't want to hear from you, Steve. Nobody came to the meeting tonight to hear about you. Page 52 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is an amazing page. And page 52, I'm so glad you guys came for this 3-hour talk. It's going to be amazing. On page 52, we have something called the bedevilments. Because we have the promises in the middle of the 9th step. But in order to get to the promises, we have to know there's a problem. Here were some of my problems. We were having trouble with personal relationships. This is on page 52. Bedevilments. We're having problems with personal relationships. Can you relate to that, some of you guys? Problems with personal relationships? Yeah, you know who I'm looking at. You know that. By the way, if you feel like I'm staring at you, my eye will look around the room while I'm reading. It has nothing to do with you. I was shot. Okay, so I'm blind in one eye and it just looks around sometimes checking things out. So don't get, don't be like, why is he staring at me? It's none of you. It's just the way it is. We were having trouble with our personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness, right? We had a feeling of uselessness. That's why you take a drink, you don't go to work, you have a feeling of uselessness, take another drink because you didn't go to work. And so on and so on. And by the way, when I say drink, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't get offended if you're not a drinker and you're a drugger or you're a sexer or you're a gambler. Alcoholics Anonymous works for everything. It's a unifying program. All inclusive, never exclusive. I'm a real alcoholic, but I'm not a pure alcoholic. Don't get it. I'm not going to go into drugs. Don't worry, Michael. I know I'm maybe getting nervous. I'm not going to get into drugs. But if I say I was rolled up in a carpet or I peeped out of a window for 3 days and I say it's because of scotch, that's kind of silly, isn't it? You know it's not scotch. That'd be some good scotch, though, right? That'd be some good scotch. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. I was always full of fear. And when I did some of that high octane scotch, I felt like everybody was coming at one time. The police were always positioned right outside my door. Breaker coming in right now. Coming in hot. One time I called the police on myself. Picked up the phone and said, 911. Said, what's your emergency? I said, I'm about to be arrested by a mysterious police force. I need another police force to come in here and intervene. That's God's honest truth. I threw myself down on the carpet. I threw my hands behind my back. I put them in a prone position so that they wouldn't hurt me. I laid there on the carpet. The real police finally got there, knocked on the door, said, what's the problem? And can you imagine how embarrassing that was? We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Was not a basic solution of all these bedevilments more important than whether this is the problem. That was the problem. Now, not everyone's going to have all of that. But if you qualify for a recovery program, you need to have at least one of them. I have all of them. Fear is the number one. Fear has been my main defect of character. One of my main defects. Well, it's one of the 7 defects of character I've been suffering from in my life. So that's the problem, the bedevilments. So I told the school that my brother played for the Pittsburgh Panthers. Turns out that's a major college team. I didn't know what it was. But when he got drafted to the NFL, that was like the best day of my life. I had a jersey with his name. I had newspaper clippings. People coming up to me, how do you feel? I'm like, this is amazing for my family. You know, I kept that thing going for years into college. I got shot in the eye when I was 12 years old because I didn't want a kid in the neighborhood to leave while we were playing. And I had a 177 caliber pellet gun that was really powerful, and it blew out my eye. And the whole thing was because I didn't want him to go. So I said, you could shoot at me. I've always thought in the moment and not in the next 5 minutes. And that's how I lost the eye. And then during that time, I had tried some of the drugs that they gave me, and I liked them. Why did I like them? I liked them because it made me be a different person. Alcohol and drugs, for me, make me be able to be somebody else. Somebody that I envision I want to be. And alcohol is like a great elixir for a person that has low self-esteem. I could dance better. I was tall. My eyes were straight. I mean, it's great. And I wasn't going to give it up. And then I come from an era of of the 80s in New York, Miami. You know, I don't know if you've seen the movie Scarface or New Jack City. That's the kind of like my era and kind of like my neighborhoods. So there was a lot of that flowing. And so I got in trouble with that. And my family sent me out to a treatment center in Minnesota. And by the way, you guys know real cold out here. It's wonderful. This is amazing weather. I love it. It's incredible. But I have a feeling it gets colder. In Minnesota, it gets really cold. In Minnesota, I don't know. Is it the same type of cold here, Ryan? The same type of cold in Minnesota? That's serious cold. And I didn't know it. My family sent me out to treatment. I had like a guinea tee on, like 5 gold chains. I had my hair gel. I had like muscle pants, balloon pants. And I arrived on February 7th in Minnesota, and I was woefully underdressed. Because they had popped in a movie called Clean and Sober with Michael Keaton, and they're like, this is where you're going. And we had never met anyone that went to treatment. People in my neighborhood don't go to treatment. They go to college or jail. There's really not a treatment type of situation. But I went to treatment. I was 20 years old, and I was introduced to the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And when I say introduced to the 12 steps, it sounds a lot more romantic the way I just said it. They were on the wall. I was incarcerated at this treatment center. They said, this is what we're going to do. And so I was introduced to the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. But I was not there for not drinking. I was 20. I just turned 21. I was there for one substance and one substance only. And the guy's like, we're powerless over alcohol. I'm like, I am not powerless over alcohol. I haven't even really started drinking alcohol. Just started. How could I be powerless? He said, well, we have an answer for all your problems. I said, well, I just came out here for one problem. And I need to get that done, and I need to get back to college. I'm in the senior year of college. I need to get that done. And my family was under the impression that 28 days should do the trick. And I agreed with them. I felt like 28 days should do the trick. I'll go back to college, finish college, get on with my life. It's a 28-day spin drive program. And that didn't work out good for me. First, I got kicked out on the 26th day for fighting because they kept telling me I was powerless, and I didn't really like that concept. And so I got kicked out for fighting. And then I got sent to a male halfway house, and I got kicked out for fighting. And then I got a woman roommate, and I got kicked out for smoking crack. That was a separate subject. And so my experience, I said I wasn't going to use drugs. I apologize. That slipped. That slipped. I didn't even know how that happened. That just slipped. That was like, that's the last time you'll hear about drugs. And so I'm in Minnesota, and my family joins a program called, I don't know the exact name of the program, but it was a Nar-Anon Tough Love program. And I'm the only boy in my family, so my mother had always coddled me, and I'm the only male heir in the family, and so when they sent me out to treatment, with a $35,000 check to go to Hazelden for kids, and I came out with 3-piece matching Gucci luggage. I was going to do it for 28 days. You know what I'm saying, Kev? I was going to do 3-piece matching Gucci luggage type of treatment. But they had joined some type of secret society program called Nar-Anon, and they taught my parents like this undercover code. And I called them. I was saying, they just kicked me out again, and I'm on the streets, and it's freezing out here, and I don't have the right clothing, and I lost my luggage, and I need to come home. My parents say, we didn't cause this problem, son. And we can't cure this. And we can't control it. You're going to have to figure it out. I was like, what? You just sent me out here. Now you join a program that allows me not to come back. That doesn't seem like good, fair rules. And so I was stuck out there in Minnesota, and I had to figure it out. So what I do, I got a sponsor. Even though I wasn't sober, I started going to the meetings to try to grab some traction, and it was warm in the meetings. And I started to meet some people in the meetings. And sometimes when there would be one newcomer, don't do this. This is a bad thing to do. Don't do what I'm about to tell you to do. Because I was more like a druggie. So when there would be another newcomer that would raise their hand, I would notice the other newcomer. And after the meeting, I'd go up to the newcomer and I'd say, "What you doing after the meeting?" You know, and then we would get together. You know, not female male, just like, you know, other sick males. And so the main guy from the meeting from the Pacific group called me and said, you can't come back here. Like, I was kicked out of AA. That's hard to do, to get kicked out of AA. I mean, the bar for AA kicking out is very, very low. But I was taking out other newcomers, and that's like a no-no. And somehow I got back in that other halfway house. And I started doing, not the deal, I started doing a deal. And any deal was better than the deal I was doing, but it wasn't the deal yet. It was like the 12 steps light, which will work for a while. The 12 steps could work for a while, especially when it's very cold outside. You could do that for a while. And so my motivation was to try to be inside as much as possible with you people. And so I was inside for a little while. And I got about 9 months clean. I was doing Narcotics Anonymous back then. Narcotics Anonymous, which is a good program for dating. I really appreciated that program. I was making a killing. And so I relapsed with 9 months. I had no recovery. Now I'm on the streets again, but this time it was the summer, so it was better. And when I say I'm on the streets, I don't want to act like I'm a bad tush guy. Like when I say the streets, it's more like 8th Street for an hour type of situation. It wasn't really the streets. I don't want to pretend I'm like a street guy, because I would always manage to walk to someone's house and, tell them my sad story, and they would bring me in. But so I got back into the halfway house, and this time I got a year. And my family said, come down to Florida. And I got a year, and I was almost on my 5th step, so it means I'm going in the right direction. And when I say almost on the 5th step, there's a lot of people in the program that are almost on their 5th step. I was almost on my 5th step for years. I was right there. And so you can imagine I was stark raving crazy, and I was always almost on my 5th step, which means I was always riding my 4th step for about 6 months. And I get down to Florida, and then I finally meet Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're here today, I want to welcome you to Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're new, I want to welcome. Alcoholics Anonymous is the most amazing program in the world. But Alcoholics Anonymous without God is nothing for me. It's just a bunch of people commiserating together. Like, we used to drink, and now we don't, and now we have a life beyond our wildest dreams, but let's go pick up prostitutes. That's Alcoholics Anonymous without God for me. I know this is going to be a little raw for this crowd, and I'm sorry for that. Every 2 years, they forget how bad the last talk was, and they invite me back 2 years from now. So I apologize that you're in this talk, but it takes them a while to invite me back. I was here 2 years ago. As a matter of fact, there's a beautiful young girl in the back, and she was here for her first meeting 2 years ago, and now she just celebrated 1 year, and I just want to congratulate Kaylee on her 1 year. It took her 1 year to recover from the first meeting she had went to when I spoke. And now she's got a year. So Alcoholics Anonymous without God for me is me without drinking. And I need a drink to exist in life. The drink is actually the solution to my problem, not my problem. I don't have an alcohol problem. I have a me problem, and alcohol actually helps me to calm down. Whatever the alcohol substance is. So getting sober for me is not the answer. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but let me finish the story before you walk out. Getting sober will never be the answer for me. I was 12 years sober, and I gave a kid a gun and said, shoot at me, and I'll move fast. So sobriety is not the answer to my mental illness. And then I was 7 years sober another time, and I was arrested for picking up a prostitute coming out of a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sober. The Bible says to be sober-minded, to think about things above, not physically sober. I can be physically sober and be a complete crazy. I was arrested 4 times in sobriety. 4 times in sobriety. I'm not bragging. I'm saying that's terrible. Practicing these principles in none of my affairs. I was arrested by the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. That's like a step up. Local police and state police. 4 different times sober. Without God. And then I see her. And we work at a mall where there was a circus. And she joined the circus. She was a dancer from Colombia, and she came here, and the first job they gave her was a dancer in the circus. And she worked on an elephant. And I saw her. And I said, if I can get that girl, the one on the elephant, that's probably going to fix all my problems. I don't know if you've ever said that to yourself before. Seems to be a common thing for men. If I can get that girl that's working on the elephant, that's going to help me. Maybe you girls say, if I can get the job on the elephant, that'll help me. But I saw her, and she was coming in on the elephant, and I said, if I can get that girl, that exotic girl with the headdress and the beautiful sequins, not the elephant, that had nothing to do with the story. She just happened to be on it, and she was taller. She looked much taller on the elephant. I said, if I can get that tall girl on the elephant, she's going to fix all my problems. And when she got down from the elephant, I pursued her. And pursued her. Eventually, she just gave up and married me. And we had a big AA wedding, and I was sober 5 years. I said, by the way, I said something wrong. I apologize. I wasn't arrested for picking up a prostitute when I was 7 years. I was already with Sandy then, so that's not, I fast forwarded. But before Sandy, before we got married, I did that terrible thing. And I thought she was going to fix me. Because if I don't work the steps, if I don't get closer to God, if I don't do the things that are outlined in this book and also the big book for me, the Bible, if I don't do these things, I'm going to be all about me again. And that's what happened. I had a God of my misunderstanding. Somehow when you said, turn my will and my life over to the care of God, I thought you said a God of my understanding. I never really was paying attention. I thought it said we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of a God of our understanding. So I made up a God. I made up a God that went to strip clubs with me. I made up a God that allowed me to punch people in the face in Alcoholics Anonymous, headbutt a guy in AA. I made up a God that allowed me to lie to my fiance. I made up a God that allowed me to do terrible things. I made up a God. It turns out God doesn't need me to make him up. He's already got a name, and it's God. It's my job to find out who he is. He already knows who I am. He wove me together in my mother's womb. He knows me. And I didn't know that. And she didn't fix me. And I got sicker. And a year into our marriage, I started drinking. And she didn't sign up for that. I was bad, but I wasn't bad like I was when I was drinking. And then I wasn't coming home. And then I got a 6 felony car crash. What that means is 6 felonies in 1 car crash. That's serious business. Then I destroyed our finances and I wrecked our home. My drug of choice, you wreck homes. My drug of choice is not a drug of choice where you come home and you lay on the couch and you go to sleep. My drug of choice tells you that there's police officers outside at all times, and you're willing to hide anything you possibly can in any wall in the house in that exact moment. And when you do that, you have to sometimes take down some of the walls in the house because you know the police are coming in right now. And when they come in, you can't be caught with all the alcohol. So you got to hide all that alcohol like in the moment. And when you do that, the best place to hide alcohol is to pull a picture off the wall, punch a hole in the wall, stick your alcohol in there, and then put the picture up and hang out. So when the police come in, you got the remote control in your hand, and you're like, what are you doing breaking in my house? But they never came in because they weren't there. And so I'm sitting there with the remote control, and when I finally figured out they weren't there, I would go to the hole in the wall and grab my alcohol, but it turns out the wall is not solid. and all your alcohol falls to the bottom. Like thousands of dollars of alcohol is now on the bottom of your wall. It's not like you're just going to leave it there. You take that wall down. Once you know the police aren't there, that wall is fair game. So Sandy came home from the country of Columbia and the house was missing walls. This is true. This is not a made up story. Missing walls, missing pipes, missing ceiling tiles. None of the bathrooms worked. The plumbing in the showers didn't work. You never heard this story. This is bad. You probably never invite me back again after this story. Our house was destroyed. So she got the police and she served me with a restraining order. And they put me in a psychiatric ward. Is that what they call a psychiatric ward? Not really. There's a better name for it. Mental institution. A house for the criminally disturbed. And when I went to go get out, they showed me that I had a piece of paper that I wasn't allowed to go back home. It's called do they have restraining order here in Washington? I mean, guys, did they have that? You probably had to get one on him, I would imagine, recently. And so I had nowhere to go. I was about to be released to the streets sober. I had done the streets for an hour or two, not sober, but now it was like 4 days sober inside this inside the psychiatric floor. And now I find out I can't go home. And the guy comes in, Jimmy D, and he comes in, he goes, "We'd like to invite you to come to our halfway house." This is before I knew there was a restraining order against me. You know, for you those that don't know restraining orders, the police say you can't come home. That's what that is. Because you're a danger to your wife. Or the other way around, you're just a danger. And so Jimmy D comes in and he goes, "We want to invite you to come to our halfway house." I said, I own a full house in Hollywood, like right down the street. I want to come to your halfway house. He says, "Well, we got a restraining order. You're about to be homeless tomorrow." I said, "Well, tell me about your program." You know, but like I already know I'm not doing homeless sober. That's not going to happen. And so I started on that journey. And what happened, this is my story, and I'm sorry if this upsets you, but the big book says that we're quick to see where religious people are right. But this is my story. My entire life, I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous now for 10 years. I never got past the 5th step. I didn't have I had a God of my misunderstanding. This is my story. I couldn't get it. I kept relapsing, destroyed our family, destroyed my new marriage, destroyed our finances, destroyed the house. I was the president of the Homeowners Association with shutters on in the middle of the wrong season in Florida. Be like, President, you shouldn't have there's no hurricanes this time of year. I'm like, go away, So if this part of the story offends you, I'm sorry, but this is what saved my life. My wife started going to church behind my back. She joined a program called Al-Anon, which gives you the strength to do whatever you want. Like a secret society of women and men that don't follow the rules of the marriage. And she got a whole support group. They were like telling her what to do. Yeah, you go to church, girl. Don't let them home, girl. Change the locks, girl. Just change one of the locks. This is how mean these people in Al-Anon are. There's 2 locks in my house. She just changed one of them. So I would come and I'm like, got this. Wrong one. It turns out after she finally allowed me to come back in the house, it turns out both locks were keyed the same and I just couldn't figure it out the entire time. So she starts going to church. I don't know about it. I'm 30 days clean. I got no money. I'm in a very short leash. No car. I come up with this amazing idea. I would like to get high one more time. I'm serious about staying sober, but I want to get high one more time. I have one more day of drinking. Not that I want to go on a run, because I'm not going to I just want one more day of drink. I want a day off. You do 30 days sober, I felt I needed a day off. So, but my sponsor had told me to start praying on my knees. He's a tough Jewish guy from San Francisco. Jerry Bear. He's not from San Francisco, but he was living in Marin County, hardcore AA out there in Marin County, Marin Man's group. And he said, you got to start praying on your knees. In the morning, you're going to ask God to keep you clean and sober. And at night, you're going to get on your knees and you're going to thank him for keeping you clean and sober. Because if I invited you over my house for dinner, you came over my house, you grabbed the food, you didn't say please, you left the house, you didn't say thank you, I would never invite you back again. And I said, of course not. I would have no manners. He said, well, you have no manners in God's world if you don't ask him for the gift of sobriety in the morning and thank him for the gift of sobriety at night. You have no manners. He's not going to give you the gift. So I started praying on my knees for God to keep me clean and sober. But the moment my knees got to 45 degrees, I started to take back my own will, which I can do on any given day. It's either God's will or Steve's will. Who I feed wins, who I starve dies. Right now, I'm doing good. In this meeting, he's dying. God's will's winning. But that's why I need meetings. People say, you got 24 years, you still need meetings. You got 37 years. Yeah, I need meetings. I'm a mental patient. I just had a plan to take over Woodinville yesterday. Like, they're doing Woodinville wrong. Who put this circle? What kind of a moron makes a circle in the middle of Woodinville? My wife's like, you probably need a meeting. You should not be on the planning committee of any traffic situations. You got one eye. Don't worry about if they have a circle. All right, I need to get to a meeting, honey. You're right. I come up with this plan. I'm going to get drunk one more time. But I need some money. And I appreciate the young people that go out without money. I appreciate that. That's great. You guys are overachievers. I'm not one of those guys that can go out on a run with no money. That's the new thing. People leave my treatment center. I go, where are you going? We're going on a run. I go, you got no money there. We'll figure it out. That does not seem like a good plan to me. It's Florida. It's 100 degrees. You got no shoes. Where are you going? You ain't going to make it to the end of the block. But I called up my wife, who I was not allowed to call, and I called her and I asked her for $199. And she gave it to me. I was 30 days sober. It turns out in Al-Anon, they have a rule. If the addict wants to get high, we don't stand in their way because we want to know exactly what they're doing right away. So if she needed to follow through on the divorce papers, she could. And her sponsors set me up, which I think is wrong. And they gave me $199 with 30 days of sobriety. And I rushed to the phone store because I told her I needed it for the phone. So I had to call her from that phone so that she wouldn't tell the halfway house owner that I was on a run. And I say to the guy behind the counter, look at God, God is so good. Raise your hand if you know God is so good. Robert, you better raise your hand if you know God is so good. I didn't even believe in him, but he believed in me. The guy behind the counter at the phone store, who I said, I need to be out of here in 15 minutes and I need to have the cheapest cell phone you have and I need it to be working because I need to call my wife and tell her that I'm going to a meeting. The guy behind the counter says to me, Stevie B, I saw you yesterday at the Victory meeting. Welcome back. Let's go have a cup of coffee. Step 2, came to believe a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. God's amazing. He throws life preservers at us all the time, doesn't he, Kirk? Sometimes he throws us by us. Sometimes he throws it on us. Sometimes he whacks us with it. And the guy behind the counter, Drew, he stands up and he goes, Stevie B, welcome home. I saw you yesterday in the Victory meeting. You're still sober today. I'm still sober today. He's got 25 years. I got 24 years next month. Isn't that awesome? And my wife invited me to come back and live in the house 11 months later. I didn't pick up. I'm on my knees, thanking God. And when I got up off my knees, I figured out it was my first night in the house and I was going to turn the mattress over because it seemed lumpy because I hadn't been there in a year. And when I turned the mattress over, there's my stash. If you don't know what stash is, it's all your alcohol in one area. Like a whole stash of alcohol in one area. And I had the power to call her and say, honey, there's this stuff right here. And she was crying and I was crying. And I want to be serious for a second. I was crying because for the first time, I knew I was really in. When no one's around and you do the right thing, that's called integrity. Because I'm amazing when everyone's watching. carry my Bible when everybody's watching, carry my big book, page 52. But when no one's watching, and I call her and I tell her, honey, there's some stuff up here. We need to get it out of the house. And she's crying because she knows we got a shot. I had 11 months. I came out here to San Francisco, I did the third step with my sponsor. It was a little weird because my sponsor said we're going to meet in a hotel room in San Francisco. We're going to get on our knees. It was a little weird. Just like that. He didn't even give me a chance to think about it. He said, if you're willing to go to any length to get it. I said, okay, if this is what we have to do, this is what we have to do. And we held hands on our knees in a hotel room in San Francisco. We did the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of me. Relieve me of the bondage of myself, that I better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. Lord, move me out of the way so I can help your people. If you keep me sober, Lord, I'm a bona fide drug addict. I'm a bona fide alcoholic. I'm a bona fide sex addict. If you keep me clean from those three things, I will serve you full time forever, one day at a time. People say the third step is people make a mockery of the third step. They don't know the big book. Old timers think they know the big book because they're old timers. That don't mean anything. It just means they're old. I don't give people respect because they have old time sobriety if they're nasty. The third step is not just the precursor to the first step, which is a lot of the main speakers around the country say that. All the third step is your decision to do the fourth step. Well, why don't we read it? Let's see if that's what it sounds like. Don't worry, I'm not going to do all the steps. Take it easy. I hate when people do that. But on page 62, when it talks about the third step, it says we had a new employer, being all powerful. If we stayed close to him and performed his work well, all sorts of remarkable things follow. I'm just going to stop there. Don't worry. I'm not going to get in. Don't worry. It's like one of the greatest hidden secrets of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, the big book. Made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. Doing a third step means I am making a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God right there to the best of my ability. It means exactly that. Don't dumb it down. You couldn't even get into AA in 1939 if you couldn't stay at Dr. Bob's house unless you got on your knees in Ann's bed and gave your life to God. I know a lot of my stuff's not popular, but it doesn't matter. There's one that has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. This is what worked to me. My life is happy, joyous, and free. I have an amazing life. I don't make a ton of money. I only have one eye. I got a lot of different problems going on. And my life is happy, joyous, and free. I count it all joy. I got an amazing wife. I'm going to tell you about my amazing son. I got an amazing career. I get to help people full time. We get to help people full time. We get to help people. It's incredible. My best thinking would have had me wound up in a brothel in Tijuana. That's where I was going. As a matter of fact, before I married this beautiful, incredible, godly, honest, my wife is every one of the Cub Scout, Boy Scout things. She's honest. She's everything. I never have to worry about where she's going. She's not thinking about other men as far as I know. She's the most amazing person. Her name is Sandra. But I wanted to marry a girl named Diamond. Her stage name was Diamond. Before I met Sandra, I was dating a girl named Diamond. That's what I was going to do. But God. She would have been coming home at 4 to 5 in the morning every night, Diamond. That was the life that I was going to have. I didn't make this up. This is a true story. I wanted a wife with a stage name. God gave me the most incredible, beautiful, loving, honest, caring wife. But God. Page 85, 86, 87, and 88 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's one of the greatest daily meditations we can have. And just in case you don't know exactly those pages when I said it, it starts off with on awakening. Let us think about the 24 hours a day ahead. It actually gives us the plans that we should do every day on awakening. And then the next page has a when we retire at night. It gives us a set of directions for every day so that we can try to stay out of our own way. My wife and I did something different today. Every morning I wake up and I say, I want to get on my knees and I want to pray to God. Most mornings I do. But the second thing I do is I pick this up. The second thing I do is I pick this up. Today we did something different. Did you guys do something different today? Being convinced of this, we were at step 3. A, that we're alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. If you're an alcoholic or if you have a problem with drinking and you cannot manage your own life, raise your hand. I'm watching you out of the corner of my eye, one eye. Okay, most of you know that you cannot manage your own life. Okay? If you know that probably no human power could relieve you of that problem, raise your hand. And that God could and wouldn't, if he were sought, that God has the power to step into life, raise your hand. That's the first 3 steps. Some of you guys didn't want to raise your hand because you're like, yeah, I don't want to join this cult. No, join. It's a good time to join. Because the cult that you're in, I know the end of the story and it doesn't end well. Jails, institutions, and death, and sometimes slowly the cult you're in. This is another cult. This cult is you're going to have a life beyond your wildest dreams. You're going to have things happen to you that you can't even imagine. You're going to meet people around the world that you would never have met. You're going to go to places that you ordinarily wouldn't go. You're going to have a freedom and a new happiness. You're going to help people for free and for fun. You're going to have a purpose in life. You're going to know you're not alone. Don't worry, I'm going to get to some more debauchery stories and some craziness, but I just want to tell you today, you have this thing in your town. This is a separate part of the story. You have something called the Friar Sauna in your town. You know what it is? It's cold plunges and sauna in an orchard. I don't know if you know how blessed you are in Washington. This is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. It's like, I think God spent more time in this area than he has anywhere else. And this morning, it was cold rain. And I said to Sandy, I'm still going to the sauna at this orchard. And I'll have an umbrella. I'm going in cold water anyway. It doesn't really matter. I'm going in freezing cold water. I'll just have an umbrella as I get in the cold water. And as I got on this property, it illuminated with the light of God. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie Gladiator, where the wife is already in heaven and he's going to go to heaven and she's walking along heaven, or he's walking along heaven, and he goes like this with his hands into the bushes, and it's heaven. I forgot what they call heaven in the Gladiator. Anybody know the word? Cilia or some word. You know what? You have that here in Woodinville. You grow wine here, but you shouldn't do that. But it's heaven. And you know, if I was drinking, I would have never seen that. If I was drinking, I would have talked about going cold plunging, and I would have woke up hungover at 1 today, or nasty at 9, or resentful at 6 a.m. I would have been, Washington's so cold, and it gets dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and what kind of people are these people with the circle in the middle of the street? Who knows who's going in that circle? Anybody could just start off in that circle. Nobody, And do you know that there's people in AA that still act like that? They're 30 years sober, 40 years sober, and they look at the whole world like who put that damn circle in the middle of the street? That's what I am without God. And so my wife and I, we want to have a baby when I know you guys know the story, but it's just my story. I just got to tell you this. We want to have a baby, and we're 10 years sober at the time, and she's 10 years in Al-Anon, and she's got a sponsor in Al-Anon. I have a sponsor in AA, and I'm sponsoring guys. We want to have a baby. We can't have a baby. And we get eggs donated from Colombia, and we go to an in vitro fertilization clinic. So good luck. It's a blessing. 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 We can't have a baby, and then we finally get pregnant, and we lose the baby. We have a baby room built in the house. We're crushed. It took us 5 years to get pregnant, and 4 months to lose the baby. We just can't. I can't get my head around it. I'm taking meetings into treatment centers. I'm speaking all over. God bless. I'm in church. I'm in ministry. I'm speaking in treatment centers. I'm taking 5 meetings a week into detoxes. I'm doing all the stuff that you guys do, and we can't have a baby. And then we lose our baby. And I just don't understand it, because well-meaning people told me in Alcoholics Anonymous that God only gives you what you can handle. But that's not true. That's not a true thing. It's just something we say. It's actually that that life gives you terrible things sometimes, and God gives you the strength to get through it. That's actually the truth. I mean, God didn't give me alcoholism. It wasn't his choice to say, you know what, let's make Steve addicted to everything, including pornography, tobacco, gambling, sex, alcohol, drugs, and one eye. We're going to give him all that. No, God doesn't do that. Life does that, and then God gives us the strength to get through it. And now, so we sign up for an adoption agency, and then we get kicked out of the adoption agency. We got asked to leave the adoption agency because of my record with picking up the prostitute coming out of a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, which my wife didn't know about. So he calls and says, a man like your husband cannot, you may not know this part of the story, Brian, a man like your husband cannot adopt in the state of Florida because he picked up a prostitute. She gets all the information in one call. You're not getting a baby. You're married to a degenerate. This is what he did when you were dating. In one call. And she doesn't leave. And she stays faithful. And she says, we're going to have a baby. And she keeps going to church. And we keep going to church. And we keep going to AA. And she keeps going to Al-Anon. And that night we lost the baby, we were in AA. Because you guys showed me that we don't have to go through anything alone. And I have a friend whose daughter is murdered, and she's chopped up in pieces. And he goes to the prison, and he forgives her in AA. And I have another friend whose wife was murdered, and she was put into a suitcase. His name is Mike the mechanic, and he stays sober. And we lose a baby, and we both go to meetings. Because you taught us that. We don't have to do anything alone. But then there's a person in Alcoholics Anonymous who knows this woman by the name of Mindy, a Jewish woman, that he says she does home studies, and maybe she'll come to your house and maybe she'll do a home study. And so we call up Mindy and ask her to do a home study, which means maybe we'll have a baby if Mindy can approve it. But by this time, my wife and I are over-the-top Christians. What that means is we have a giant picture of Jesus on the wall. And when I mean giant, I mean definitely giant Jesus is on the wall. And we also have statues and sayings and holy water coming from the sprinkler system. You know, we're definitely over the top. And I say to Sandy, let's just put giant Jesus in the closet. We're not going to, but we'll just be undercover and turn the car around with the bumper stickers. Let's take the t-shirts off. Let's take the ashes off our head. Let's just try to appear normal for an hour. And she says, we're not going to pretend who we're not. And Mindy comes in, she looks at giant Jesus, and she says, do you think that God gave you another chance? And we say, we know he did. So she says, how could I not give you another chance? And she signs off on a baby for us. And we get a baby in a couple weeks. And we go and we meet our baby on his first day of his life. And the mom, his birth mom says, what would you like to name your son? And we say, Joshua. She says, why Joshua? We say, in the Bible, Joshua 24:15 says, as for me and my house, we choose to serve the Lord. And she said, well, I'm not religious. And we said, well, it just means our son's going to grow up in a godly home. And our son has grown up in a godly home. It's been 14 years. We've had a life beyond our wildest dreams. It hasn't been easy. It's never going to be easy. But it's certainly fun. Every single time we go to a place like this and people open up their homes to us and we travel around Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon meetings, we just pinch ourselves. I would have settled for a woman named Diamond and a life beyond nobody's dreams. But God said, you know what? I want you to have more, son. I want you to do the steps. I want you to help people. I want you to sponsor people.
You're going to open up a treatment center down the road. It's going to be a faith-based treatment center. It's going to be JC's house. And I'm going to give you the name right now. It's called JC's house. And you open it up. And people told me, you can't open up a faith-based treatment center. Nobody's coming to a faith-based treatment center. You can have a faith-based track, but you can't have a whole treatment center where everybody in there has to be subject to your faith. We're doing it. We've been open 12 years. People come from all over the country, whether they're ready or not. They at least have an open mind when they get there. Right now, we're open in Hollywood, and my son is with our brother-in-law and her niece and her husband, and that guy was a guy from my halfway house. The guy that my son is with right now was a degenerate drug addict, the worst I've ever had. And we're at a Bible study, and her niece comes in from Colombia, the nicest girl you've ever met. Other than my wife, the nicest girl you've ever met. And he's at one side of the Bible study with the degenerate people from my halfway house. And she's in the other side with family members. And I never let the two go together. And I told her, don't even look in that area. And she comes over and she goes, that's what Spanish is. And I see her talking to my wife in Spanish. And I see her say, and I know she's talking about one of the boys at the Bible study. And she's talking about the worst one of them all. The guy that just relapsed last week, sold his bike for drugs, wound up on the corner with no pants, that guy. I say to her, sobrino, which means niece in Spanish. That's like one of the 6 words I know. I go, listen, that guy's the worst. Any guy but that guy. She's like, and 5 years later, she marries that guy. That guy who was the worst drug addict that I've ever known, who was not responsible enough to have $40 in his pocket without using it, but God and Alcoholics Anonymous, went down to Colombia, where our drug of choice is made, with $4,000 in his pocket. And what's when you get on your knees? What's it called again? Proposed. That word is so offensive to my spirit, even to this day. It's hard for me to get him out of my. Proposed to her in Colombia on his own. He got on a plane with $4,000 and went down and proposed to her niece. And now they're the most unbelievable godly people you've ever. She was always godly. He's the most godly person. He's got 11 years of sobriety, and he's taking care of our son. And to be honest with you, he's a better parental type of role model than I am because he's strict. That's what God and Alcoholics Anonymous can do. He's a deacon in the church. We trust him with our son. He's got all the keys to our house. He knows all our bank accounts. He knows everything. If I die today, he knows how to get into the safe so that Sandy has everything. Not that there's that much, but if there was. And I'm going to end up with this part of the story. You want to settle for sober? You want to settle for sober and miserable? That's your choice. There's plenty of sober, miserable people in AA. Go to any meeting, you'll be able to pick them out. They got those squishy faces. They look like Cabbage Patch people. And they're sitting there and they got squishy faces and they'll never smile. No matter how funny the speaker is, no matter how outrageous the speaker is, they sit there like this. Bleeding deacons. Look like they're spiritually constipated. They're at every meeting. Some of you look like that tonight. I just want to tell you, you have those faces. Not all of you, but a couple of you. You need a spiritual enema is what you need. And if that's what you want, is that's why you're staying in AA, if that's the best you have, fine. I can't stay sober for that. If I was miserable in AA, I wouldn't stay. I'm going to tell you that much right now. This is not a game for me. If this wasn't enjoyable and fun and meaningful, and if this wasn't about the next person, if this wasn't about my buddy Cole, and I'm not saying you're an alkie, because I know I'm not saying you are, but I love you, and it's your second day, right? I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable, but I love you, right? You could get this, maybe not today. But Kaylee, a couple years ago, now she's got a year. I love this thing. I think this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. But some people, all they want is sober.
They sponsor miserably. They act miserably. How much did you spend on the cookies? And they live to destroy business meetings. Their whole existence is to get to the business meeting so that they can stick a needle in your side. That's AA without God. You know that this year, the first time the international convention, the first time in the history of the international conventions, they took the Lord's Prayer out of the international convention. You know, you were there, right? Weren't you there? We can't let non-godly people win. Where I'm from in New York, they took out both prayers. The home group in my town, they had no prayer. It's no prayer to no prayer. I went there and says, this is a prayer to prayer meeting. They go, not in this meeting. I said, well, what's the point? There is one that has all God, may you find. Well, there is one that has all power. That one is God, may you find him now. What's the point? To stay sober, only to stay sober? You've missed only the first half of the first step even has anything to do with alcohol. Everything else is about the joy of living. We have the joy of living. We make shirts, we high-five each other, we hug each other, we act inappropriately, we make the 10th step on that, we apologize, we go to the next day, we get on our knees, we do our inventory, we call the person and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I said something ridiculous, and get to the next meeting and do it all over again. And for some of you that sounded attractive, that's attractive to me. And then we try to bring God to the next person. But some people come to AA and then they hear that you can have a life beyond your wildest dreams, and they realize it's a buffet and they settle for crouton. That's not us. We're not selling for crouton. Crouton means you go to the buffet and you stop at crouton. It's food. And you can see them. They're crouton eaters. They got the crouton on their plate. They got the fork and the knife, and they're, how you doing? Hanging in there. I want to have a life beyond my wildest dreams. God wants to bless us abundantly, wants to have a relationship with us, wants to heal us, here or in the next life. He wants us to have it all. You know, next month will be 24 years for my wife and I. We are so blessed. Our son's 14. He's got issues. My son's got a lot of issues. He's never seen his daddy drink. You know what? A couple weeks ago, he's never seen me. Of course, he's never seen me drink. I have 24 years. He's got 14 years. In one of the stores then that's the last thing I'll say. One of the stores by us, they sell drinks that look like drinks. It's Whole Foods, and they have non-alcoholic, not non-alcoholic beer. Don't get me, nothing like that. It's like flower drinks, made of like chamomile, like that kind of stuff. In this area, you probably drink a lot of that kind of stuff. And so I pick up one of these little fruity cans that's made out of tulips and all this kind of stuff. And in this store we go to, when no one buys it, and a lot of people in South Florida don't buy drinks made out of dandelion tulips, they put it on the dollar rack. And my son and I, after the gym, I love to go to the dollar rack, and he tolerates it. We go to the dollar rack and we get one of these fruity drinks, and my son picks it up, and he's 14. He says, Dad, let me read that. He's never seen me drink. He knows if I do drink, there's going to be a problem. He knows that he's seen my friend die last week of alcoholism, a pastor, 45 years old, gorgeous young man, brilliant with a 10-year-old. He's seen so many of my friends die. And he picked up the can. He says, Dad, let me read it to make sure. Did you know that he did that? And he reads it, he says, fine, this like dandelions, you're fine with this. Guys, I want to tell you, it's been an amazing blessing to be with you. Alcoholics Anonymous changed our lives. I haven't thought of taking a drink, and I can't tell you how long. That's not one of the promises, but that happened to me. I can go to any situation. I pull people out of places that they're doing my drug of choice. If your heart is right, you can go in there and you can help anybody.
The joy of living is carrying the 12th step. Michael, you know that. That's the joy of our living. This whole thing is about the next guy. And you know what? The newcomer is the most important person, because without you, we don't have a purpose. So you are the most important person, and we do love you. And if you don't love yourself, don't worry. We're going to love you long enough until you love yourself. And every single person that stays in Alcoholics Anonymous that finds God, that I know, I'm not saying people don't have God. I just don't know them. Every person that stays and finds God, every single one of them are happy, joyous, and free. Happy, joyous, and free. Happy, joyous, and free. Happy, joyous, and free. I'm not sure about you, but you look happy, joyous, and free. Happy, joyous, and free. Happy, joyous, and free. Happy, joyous. God is never overpromised and underdelivered. But alcohol always overpromises and always underdelivered. I have a life beyond my wildest dreams today. But God is not a respecter of persons. So when I say I have a life beyond my wildest dreams, I mean every single person that works this program, every single person that carries the 12 step, every single person that has God in their heart, every single person I've ever met has the joy of living. And if I did my job right tonight, and I continued to point to him, then I've carried the message of the 12 steps. Nobody has to feel like they're alone anymore, because you're not. This whole program is a magical program. It's an incredible program. And it's a program where we get to do this together. God bless you guys. I'll see you in 2 years from now.